Have you ever considered that when God is completely silent, He actually may be doing something that's more important than when He's loud and clear? We're going to show you how that happened in human history in today's online campus.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Online Campus. My name is Jesse. I'm the Online Campus Pastor. I'm here with Rick Carrol, our Senior Pastor, and we want to welcome you to a campus that streams anytime, anywhere.
Portico is one church, one message, many expressions. It means we have lots of different campuses or expressions that meet. We all study the same part of the Bible, but we express it a little bit differently. Here in our online campus, we take you wherever we want to go, and we give you easy to understand practical applications of what we're studying. And today, we're talking about a part of the Bible where God was totally silent. So we brought you to a place where you've got to be totally silent. We're here at one of the Mississauga libraries. Actually, this is the library in my neighborhood. And there's not a word being spoken in there, but there's all kinds of good things being accomplished and studied inside this silent place, right?
You know, growing up, I never got along with libraries because I was just super loud, and library and I just never was a good fit.
You got kicked out of the library, right?
Exactly.
So in your home, if somebody's going to be silent, is it you or is it Camilla? Or is it River?
No, it's definitely not River. It's going to be Camilla.
Yeah.
Between the both of us, she's a little bit more introverted. She's more quieter. I'm more louder. Even at during the night hours, she'll usually say, "Keep it down, like you're gonna wake up the baby" or something like that. And I'm just talking very loudly, and she's like,
I can see that. It might be shocking to you, but I'm actually the loud one in my home.
That's a huge shock.
I know. It's hard to understand, but I am loud. And you know what I learned growing up in my house, that actually sometimes silence can be a much more strong way to communicate than being loud. If my dad really wanted to be angry at me, nothing. He would say not a word. He would just look at me.
So you would get the
walk
look
away.
As well.
I get the look. That's and that can be actually a much more powerful communicator than somebody losing their mind, raising their voice, right?
Yeah. Well, so similar to your story, my dad as well. He wouldn't say much, but when he would say something, we'd all listen because he's usually a quiet guy, but his words carry a lot of meaning to it and a lot of impact. So definitely resonate with that. Yeah.
So there's a part in the Bible where God doesn't speak for 400 years. That guy's loud. This not loud. God doesn't speak for 400 years, and there's actually something very impactful happening, and we're going to see that in the silence, God is still very active. So before we get to the serious stuff today, we're going to play a little game called Silent Library in the library, where we're supposed to be silent. So we've got 15 seconds to complete one of two challenges, okay? Yeah. This is like guitar pedal board Velcro, which one of us is going to have to unclip in 15 seconds and not set off the decibel meter.
This is the most annoying thing possible. That you can
not set off a decibel meter or not tick off anyone in the library.
Okay.
And the other one is we got to roll a duct tape here. You got to unroll the whole roll of duct tape in 15 seconds.
Fun.
If you tick anybody off, you lose.
Okay.
All right. Rock, paper, scissors for You want the Velcro or the duct tape?
Ooh. Velcro.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors for Velcro. Right. Rock, paper. Oh. So I'm duct tape. All right.
There it goes.
15 seconds.
15 seconds. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so loud.
I can't get on my knee. She's got $7.35. Okay. Well, she's a bad library. I'll pay for her library. Oh, there's no tap. No tap. I don't even know if I can pay for the library fines. Oh, wait. I can insert the card. 735 in library fines. What a bad. She's a bad citizen. Amanda's not a very good library person.
Rick, what are you doing?
I'm paying library fines. So clearly, I lost that. I could not get that entire roll of duct tape unrolled, but that's okay. Now it's time to get on to what the Bible actually has to say about silence. See, there's this part of the Bible where nothing is written. It occurs between the first half of the Bible, the Old Testament, and the latter half, the New Testament. And we call it the intertestamental period, but there's actually 400 years where there was no recorded prophecies from people hearing from God. And an entry-level understanding would be that when God isn't speaking, then nothing is happening. But silence isn't an indication of inactivity when it comes to God. In the quiet, in the waiting, in those 400 years, there's so much that's happening. Think of it like pregnancy. When you know you're pregnant, there's 9 months before there's going to be life. But actually, life is being created in the waiting time. Inside, where we can't see anything, there's so much happening where this human being is being formed. When we were at the library, there was so much that was happening with absolutely no talking going on, and Jesse and I had a little bit of something going on with our noises happening. But in silence, things are being accomplished. In Galatians 4 and 5, Paul writes this: when the right time came, God sent his son, born of a woman subject to the law. God sent him to buy freedom for us who were slaves to the law, so that he could adopt us as his very own children. God had a perfect time to appear on earth because he had need of some things on earth to be prepared. You see, before, any culture or any religion was going to stay very regional because people didn't travel all over the world. There was no way to get from one side of the world to the other. But when Rome takes power, they built roads all over the Roman Empire that extended way up in the north, down into Africa, even into Asia. So when Jesus appears on the scene and begins to speak the good news of the gospel, the message of the gospel is actually able to go all over the Roman Empire only because those roads were made. And that happened just before Jesus appears on earth. So at just the right time, Jesus came. Even the standardization of Greek language, which was spoken all over the Roman Empire, made it possible for people to go from one region to the next and share the good news of Jesus. See, before that, if you were trying to go and share any kind of message and you went from one country to the next, they wouldn't even understand you. There was no Google Translate. But at just the right time, Jesus came and shared this good news. So it was in the waiting, those 400 years, where all these things happen, and God appears on the scene as Jesus to bring us freedom. What we forget to recognize is that at times it's in the silence when God is doing his best work.
So how exactly do we approach moments of silence? First, if you are watching this today and you are saying to yourself, Jess, I'm walking with God, I'm reading my Bible, I'm plugged into a community, but I still struggle to hear God's voice. We must first determine within our hearts, does silence reveal God's punishment or God's provision? If we are informed by God's word, then we know that God often uses silence over noise to produce some of the most precious and life-giving things within us. He doesn't remove the familiar sound of his voice from us to show us where we went wrong, but rather to encourage us to trust him in the unfamiliar aspects of his presence. So when silence comes, God's not punishing us, he's simply positioning us to partake in faith. I know in my life, silence has always brought me to a place where I am encouraged to reflect, receive, and to respond. I reflect by looking back and pondering on what God has already done. I receive by accepting his provision over my life and being content with what I have and approaching the season with thanksgiving. And then finally, I respond with conviction of His Word and by living with intention. You see, in these seasons of uncertainty, we can be passive towards what God is saying and doing in our lives. However, silence is not a license for us to retreat from God's plan, but for us to engage. And as we engage, we grow and we mature. We grow and mature because we are put in situations where application of God's Word becomes prominent over simply the visitation of it. Let me explain this a little bit further. When we come to faith, we are visited by God's grace. But as we progress and develop in this newfound relationship, we are invited to apply all of the necessary qualities that pertain to any loving relationship. And so we grow in the adversity of trusting and not seeing, obeying and not hearing, and loving but not feeling. To those who put their confidence in God, silence is never a sign of punishment, but a sign of provision.
So listen, I want to challenge you to do something very practical coming out of today's online campus message. I want you to set aside 10 minutes, either today or in the next couple of days, and just practice the discipline of being silent. You don't have to say anything. You're just gonna meditate on God, meditate on the Bible. He might not even say anything to you, but you might understand your faith, or you might understand God differently because you practice the discipline of silence. And then if you do want some help with what you're working through, then they can reach out for prayer, right?
Yeah, most definitely. If you've heard anything today that resonates with you, you can go to portico.cc/prayer and someone will be willing and available to pray with you. Finally, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel, share it with a friend, share this message with anyone you know that could benefit from hearing it. Next week, we will continue with our Points of Interest series. So until then, we look forward to seeing you.